Hare Krishna. Today we are going to study the verse number 25 of chapter number 5 of Bhagwat Gita as it is. And the name of this chapter is Karma Yoga, which means to do every work in connection with Krishna, so that gradually our heart may get purified of all the dirty desires of sense gratification. In the previous verse, we learnt that a person whose happiness is within and he is active within and rejoices within and is illumined within is actually the perfect yogi. He is liberated in the Supreme while being in this material body, and ultimately, after leaving his material body, he is sure to attain the Supreme. In most simple words, one who knows that he is a spirit soul and is always in communion with the Supreme, who is residing in his heart and is also aware that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere in the form of his external energy, and along with it, he is residing in the heart of every living entity. This knowledge gives eternal joy to the person, and such a person is well qualified to attain Brahma Nirvana, which means liberation from this material world. Now, in today's verse, Krishna is going to explain that after attaining Brahma Nirvana stage, what does this person do in this material world? In today's verse, Krishna is going to tell us what is real social welfare work and who can really do good to the entire humanity. It is a very important verse as all of us want to do good for the society. But today we will get to know from Krishna that what we really need to learn before we think of doing some social welfare work. And what is real social work? I request you to watch the video till the end. Now let us recite the verse number 25 of chapter number 5 of Bhagwat Gita as it is. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishayah Sheen Kalmashah Chinna Dvedha Yatatmanah Sarvabhut Hite Ratah. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishayah Sheen Kalmashah Chinna Dvedha Yatatmanah Sarvabhut Hite Ratah. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishayah Sheen Kalmashah Chinna Dvedha Yatatmanah Sarvabhut Hite Ratah. Krishna says that one who is beyond duality and doubt, whose mind is engaged within, who is always busy working for the welfare of all sentient beings, and who is free from all sins, achieves liberation in the Supreme. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rishayah Sheen Kalmashah. It means one who is free from all sins. He achieves liberation in the Supreme. Chinna Dvedha Yatatmanah Sarvabhut Hite Ratah. One who is beyond duality and doubt, whose mind is engaged within, and who is always busy working for the welfare of all sentient beings. Such a person definitely achieves liberation in the Supreme. To begin this verse, let us first read the Anvay given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavon ki jai. Labhante, they achieve Brahma Nirvanam, the bliss of absolute spiritual emancipation. Rishaha, persons inspired from within. Sheen, are destroyed. kalmashaha, sinful qualities. Chinna dvaitatah, one-pointed or who are without doubts. Yat atmanaha, who have self-controlled minds. Sarva bhut hite, to the welfare of all living beings. Ratah, who are attached. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that those saintly persons who are free from sin and doubt, whose mind is controlled, and who are attached to the welfare of all living entities, attain emancipation from material existence through realization of the Absolute Spirit, the Brahma. Now we need to understand that how does one become sinless, doubtless and equipoised. In the verse number 17, Krishna tells us how to become sinless. Tad buddhaya tadatmanah tannishthah tat parayanah gachanti punaravrittim jnana nirdhut kalmashah. It means that when one's intelligence, mind, faith and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of the past misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus he proceeds straight on the path of liberation. This is how one becomes completely sinless. And once a person is sinless, then he becomes a sage, and by the virtue of true knowledge, he sees everyone with equal vision, whether it is a learned and gentle Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, or a dog eater. It means that he doesn't see the outer body at all. He sees only the Paramatma who is seated in the heart of everyone, which means that he is free from all the dualities. In simple words, he becomes doubtless. In the verse number 18, Krishna says, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastine Shuni Chev Shvapakecha Panditah Samadarshinaha. Krishna says that he doesn't see the outer body. He only sees the Paramatma and has no doubts about the omnipresence of the Supreme Lord. And in verse number 20, Krishna has explained about a person whose mind is in perfect control, and he neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor does he lament upon obtaining something unpleasant. He is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and knows the signs of God. And such a person is to be understood to be already situated in transcendence. Na prahashet priyam prapyam, na dvijet prapya cha apriyam, sthir buddhi asammudho, brahmavit brahmani sthitah. It means that a person whose mind is in perfect control and he neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor does he lament upon obtaining something unpleasant. He is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and knows the signs of God. Now, in today's verse, Krishna says that one who is beyond the doubts and duality, and whose mind is always engaged within, and who is always busy working for the welfare of the people, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Now we clearly know that who can actually become a social welfare worker, and it is said by Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord himself. And we have understood it by reading the Anvay given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Now, let us read the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavon ki jai. Srila Prabhupada says that only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. Prabhupada says that when a person is actually in knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Srila Prabhupada says that the main cause of the sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. Prabhupada says that a Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. And a person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Prabhupada says that temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory at all. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. And when a man is fully Krishna conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material body. Prabhupada says that when a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, then he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material body. Srila Prabhupada says that only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in the welfare work for all living entities. Here we need to understand properly that Srila Prabhupada has said for all living entities, which means that it is not pointing out only for the human beings, but for all the living entities in 84 lakhs of species, which means for all the water beings, birds, insects, reptiles, trees, four-legged animals, and human beings also. Further, Prabhupada says that when a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. And everyone means for every living being in the entire creation. Now, Prabhupada says that what is the root cause of suffering of all the human beings? This is the most important thing which Prabhupada is pointing out, that what is the root cause of all sufferings of the human beings. Prabhupada says that the suffering of humanity are due to the forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. The last verse of this chapter says, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam mam shantim richati. It means that the sages who know Krishna to be the ultimate purpose of all the sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all the planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Krishna says that the sages, knowing me is for Krishna as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets, demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, they attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Now we clearly know that what is the main reason for all kinds of sufferings in the humanity. Therefore, one who works to revive this consciousness in the entire human society is actually the highest social welfare work. Further, Prabhupada adds that one cannot be engaged in first-class welfare work without being liberated in Supreme, which means that it is mandatory to be liberated, then only one can help others. And it is very practical as well, that if a person is himself entangled, then how can he help anyone else? Which is why it is mentioned that only a liberated person can do the first-class social welfare work. We understood that the main cause of all sufferings in the humanity is the forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend of all the living entities. And when a person forgets these three things, then he wishes to become enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone. And from this point, he becomes a sinner. And a person who is sinful is bound to suffer in this material world. Now let us first understand that why is Krishna the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend? In fact, how is Krishna the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend? Srila Prabhupada explains that there are only three elements in this entire creation. The first is the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate creator of everything. Second element is the living entity, who is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And third is the material nature, which is the external energy of the Supreme Lord. Since the Supreme Lord is the ultimate creator of the material nature, so he is the ultimate enjoyer also, because it is he who has created everything and every living entity in this material world. But when we do not have this knowledge, then we think ourselves to be the enjoyer and work very hard to earn money so that we can enjoy more and more. The material world is by nature dead, without the spirit soul. So the material world cannot enjoy anything in this material world, like the fridge cannot enjoy the sweets and ice cream kept in it. And when one material cannot enjoy the other material, then only two elements are there, in which the first element is the Supreme God and the second element is we, that is his part and parcel, which is encaged in the material body. This is why we are known as encaged, conditioned souls, and we cannot enjoy anything in this material world without the help of the Supreme Lord. For example, when the soul leaves the body, then all the body parts are there, the senses are there, and the material things are also available. But the body cannot see, feel, smell, touch, or hear anything in the absence of the spirit soul. This means that without the spirit soul, we are unable to use our sense organs to enjoy this material world. And the spirit soul is the part of the Supreme Lord. Hence, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate enjoyer. One who has this knowledge will always offer everything to Krishna and then have it as Krishna Prasad. But one who doesn't have this knowledge tries to enjoy this material world independently and becomes a sinner. And anyone who sins will definitely suffer in this material world. The second thing that we need to know is this, that Krishna is the ultimate proprietor of the entire creation, and he resides in the heart of every living entity. One who knows this will never try to lord this material world and will see Krishna in every living entity and not make any difference on the basis of the outer body. Such a person is known to be without any duality. And lastly, the most important quality of the Lord is this, that he is the ultimate and eternal friend of every living entity. It's only Krishna who is, was and will be with everyone as Paramatma. It's only Krishna who knows everyone's past, present and future, and he accepts everyone without any conditions. He gives life to everyone, maintains everyone's body and gives protection to everyone. Nobody can be like Krishna. All the friends of this material world are temporary and they do not know our past, present and future, and they can't give life to us. Neither can they protect us from anything. It's only Krishna who is our eternal friend and well-wisher. We all know that Krishna was always with the Pandavas and gave them correct guidance and protection. He saved Draupadi from being disrobed. He saved the residents of Vrindavan by lifting the Govardhan hill for 7 days in continuation. He killed so many demons like Putana, Aghasur, Shaktasur, Trinavart, Bakasur, Dhenukasur. Then he danced and drove away the Kaliya Nag from Vrindavan. He killed Kans and gave the assurance to the residents of Mathura by constructing overnight Dwarika, and he shifted all the residents of Mathura to Dwarika. These are just very few activities of Krishna to make us realize his power. Now we know clearly that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend of all the living entities. And any person who knows about it will certainly feel very good that his eternal friend Krishna, who always resides in his heart, is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme proprietor, and will always do everything to please Krishna and will never think himself to be the enjoyer and proprietor. Such a person is devoid of all sins and is Krishna conscious and is always engaged in the welfare work of all living entities. This is the first class welfare work where the person is engaged to revive the lost relationship with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that a Krishna conscious person has no doubts about the supremacy of Krishna because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. Prabhupada further makes it very clear that the people who are only engaged in doing physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Physical welfare means giving food, clothes, medicines to the poor people. Prabhupada says that this kind of help gives temporary relief to the external body and mind, which is really not satisfactory. Prabhupada says so because this kind of help doesn't end the cause of their miseries and struggles. But instead of giving only food to the poor, if Krishna Prasadam is distributed and an effort is made to help them revive the lost relationship with Krishna. And if one can make them understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, and the eternal friend of all the living entities, then the main reason for all sufferings will be over. We don't realize that our life is a journey of many births and deaths, and we really don't know what we have done in our past lives. But this is for sure that all the sufferings, hardships, and miseries are only because of our own misdeeds, either in this life or in the past life. And the only way to end all the miseries and sufferings is to know who is Krishna and what is our relationship with him, and that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, and the eternal friend of all the living entities. But this can be done only by a Krishna conscious person who is himself free from all kinds of lusty desires to enjoy this material world, which actually belongs to only Krishna, because he is the supreme proprietor and the proprietor is meant to enjoy. And Krishna, in spite of being the supreme proprietor and enjoyer, is our eternal friend. Now I'm sure that all of us have properly understood that who can do real social welfare work and what is the root cause of all miseries and hardships and how it can be ended. I thank Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and my Shiksha Guru, His Grace Harimohan Das Prabhuji, for making us understand the most secretive knowledge of Bhagwat Gita as it is. I thank you for listening to the words of Krishna so attentively and with complete faith. Please write your realizations, as it encourages me and helps others to have a better understanding. Now we shall meet the next week with the next verse. Till then, keep chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Do watch the video and share it with others. Hare Krishna.